Welcome to the first ever Passage panel. This is our kickoff event for Nebular Summit. Really excited to have these incredible panelists here. We are going to be talking about building communities beyond chain boundaries. There's so much potential in the cosmos, and we have a really cool lineup of folks here who I think have contributed to the interchain ecosystem in a unique way and pushing beyond some of the cosmos bubble. Let's just start with some intros. We want to start with Rebecca and go down the line to Jack and Aaron. Rebecca, if you just tell us a little bit about you, Saga, and I would love to hear any peeves you have about the what is your beef with communities in Web3 or Cosmos communities. Let's hear it.
Awesome. Well, Lex, thanks so much for having me, and it's great to be here with everyone. Passage is looking amazing. This is a metaverse that I would actually spend a great deal of time in, which is not how I feel about most other metaverses out there. So good on you guys for creating this. So, hey guys, I'm Rebecca Liao. I'm co-founder and CEO at Saga. We are a layer 1 to launch layer 1s. So by definition, everyone who builds on us is building on their own layer 1 or set of layer 1s called chainlets. And these are all fully decentralized proof of stake chains. So no centralized sequencers here. These are all full chains with full chain functionality. And that allows a project to potentially infinitely scale on a horizontal basis. So they should never face any sort of performance issues. We're also costless on the front end. That's another signature of our product. So we do not charge gas to the end user. The Saga token is only used by developers to pay validators to keep their chainlets alive. On the front end, you can monetize however you like. And we are, of course, coming from Cosmos and therefore interoperability first. We are full proponents of IBC, so that's how all the chainlets speak to one another within Saga and out to other Cosmos chains. But we do uniquely offer fast bridging out to other non-Cosmos ecosystems as well. No surprise, given how we're architected, we are heavily focused on gaming and entertainment. There are currently 360 projects that are building on Saga. 80% of that is gaming by deliberate effort of the team. And we are in flagship summer right now. So Saga launched a couple months ago, and our first 3 flagships are going live this summer. 1 very shortly, and then 2 will be revealed at Gamescom this year, which is the largest gaming conference in the world. It takes place at the end of August in Germany. So that's a little bit about Saga. In terms of pet peeves with the community, so put it this way, I think it's only human for any project that is seriously building to sometimes notice community comments, be affected by them. But at the end of the day, I do think that because we are the builders, we are the platforms, we are in leadership positions here in the industry, you cannot have any sort of like negative emotion towards your community. It's on you at the end of the day to lead people. And a lot of people know that I have a political background. So a lot of that training and that value system comes from politics, where it doesn't matter how mad the voter makes you, you work for the voter at the end of the day. And so we take that attitude here at Saga. We work for our community. But I do think a few things that should evolve in crypto as the industry gets more mature. One is a community cannot be based on token go up. This is an entirely mercenary way to organize a group of people. It is not based on any sort of shared value or ethos or even sense of fun and belonging. And those are all core to community building. So that is, one thing that I would caution projects as well as community members who are looking to join new communities. The other thing is, I do think, and I haven't been in Cosmos as long as the other people on stage have been, and so I also am still educating myself about the nature of this community. But one of the curious things about it is to be very blunt, it's insularity. So I think it's a wonderful thing to welcome in more community members who are not native to Cosmos, because just
Yeah.
thinking honestly from a business standpoint, and as someone who likes people, the more the merrier. But I do sense that when projects start to venture out, there is a feeling of sort of jealousy or abandonment, frankly, from people within Cosmos. And there's no need to feel that way. I mean, we are here to really celebrate the technology and bring the benefits of it to other ecosystems. And frankly, one of the things that Saga is seeing is for any roll up, side chain, any sort of dedicated block space scaling solution out there, they're all kind of Cosmos back in like 2017, like they're all going to run into the same technical issues that Cosmos has frankly already solved for. So it's like, guys, we have something of real value to offer this ecosystem in crypto. And so why not do it? There's no need to feel like, hey, we have to sort of protect the treasure and only hang out with one another. Let's bring in
Yeah.
more people, guys. Let's go out there and expand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on community. We're a couple months into being live, and those are some of the impressions I've had so far.
I love that. I love that. Jack, intro and potential community beef.
Yeah, on the token beef, it's Rebecca put her finger on it. It is organizing communities around number go up, which is just insane.
Yeah.
But wait,
I think,
is it okay to organize communities on token price going down?
I mean,
totally
I don't know, man.
fine.
We have some of those communities in Cosmos.
You build communities when the bear you're going into a bear and you're like kind of like penguins huddling in the cold together.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I would say is like you need to build around. Like I came to crypto to help rebuild the financial system and to build the pipes that would do that. And Aaron's at Osmosis, Becca's at Saga. Like each of us kind of came to this for our own reason, and to see communities being built only around mercenary ideals effectively. That's just not what any of us came here for. So that said, anyway, hey, my name's Jack Zampolin. I've been a long-time core developer for Cosmos, built a ton of things like the Cosmos Hub, Sommelier, Gravity Bridge, Juno, a few other ones that I'm
just a few
forgetting.
Things, just a few.
Noble. Yeah, but my company is Strangelove. We also do this project called Rollchains. And yeah, we build a ton of, we're core infrastructure developers. So we don't, we help applications build, but we mainly build the core infrastructure that other folks use.
Beautiful. I love it. Aaron, intro and community beef.
Yeah. Is my camera showing, by the way?
Yeah.
Like on my screen, it's just the double eyes, but
you're good. We got you.
Cool.
Loud and clear.
I'm like, yeah, am I yawning on camera here? Oops. But yeah, so like Aaron Kong with the Osmosis Foundation, and I essentially lead growth efforts. I do think this panel, especially with Rebecca on here, it's like actually really interesting to me because I was a pro gamer back in 2010 and 2011,
yes.
And like talking community and relevance to gaming is like actually pretty funny. Like I don't know if people here know how the term KEK came to be. The KEK. Does anyone know?
No.
I wonder if I can turn to the audience and see if anyone knows. Jump up and down if you know what KEK. Up. We've got a few people. Okay.
It's the frog laughing. It's the frog laughing.
No, it's not. It's not. So in World of Warcraft, there are two factions. One's Horde and one is Alliance. Alliance, when you type, it's just like, if you're on Alliance, you're typing, you're going to see like English characters or something. But if a Horde character types to you and you're like standing next to them in the video game, it's going to look like gibberish. So whenever they type the letters LOL, what you see is KEK. and the proper use of KEK is really like you're a Horde character and you killed an Alliance character, and then their dead body, you can still read the chat. and you just type LOL over their dead bodies, and the dead person reads it as Keck. So it's basically like the ultimate trolling. It's like, ha, I just killed you, sucks to suck, is what Keck really means.
That
like,
is hysterical.
Like go cry in a corner. So it's like, this is like, you know, gaming, community, culture.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does something like Keck persist for 15 years now, and it's only like growing, and you know, it's taking form in all these different communities, and people, you know, don't know where it came from, but it's kind of eternal now. And I think that's just like awesome. It's like, how do you build that? It's like the same thing with Bad Kids. Why do I go to the gym and the daycare has like these little art drawings on the door? I'm like, huh, I could sell those. You know, that to me is like culture and community, because it kind of just persists everywhere you go. It's like, how do you build these things?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So I guess, I don't know. There was a question like the beef thing, right? It's
yes.
I don't know if I have like that much. I don't think I have too much of a pet peeve on anything. Maybe like, maybe when, I guess, maybe users or retail doesn't understand like how long it takes to build something. Like, you know, something as simple as getting like a info page or charts built into your front end, but like this could take months of work, and it might seem like something super simple. And don't get me wrong, like I've made the same complaint to teams, and I'm like, why can't you just fix this? They're like, no, it's like not that easy. I'm like, oh, oops, I see. That might be like one thing that I think could be frustrating. But you know, if you're not a developer, you might not, I guess, understand that this is something that could take months. Other than that, I don't think there are too many pet peeves. I think like communities act like pretty organically and naturally, and you know, if they're complaining about something, you know, it's, yeah, maybe it's right or wrong, but you shouldn't treat it as like a right or wrong complaint. You should be like, oh, like why, whether it's right or wrong, like why is it coming? You know, they're going to be reacting organically, and it's the team's jobs to like kind of like bring that in and triage it and determine you know, how to move forward from that. But I don't think I have too much of a pet peeve anymore.
No, I love that comment though, because I think that speaks to what Rebecca said at the beginning, which is this like, it's not that the feedback in and of itself, right? You can't necessarily judge the individual or the community. It's, you have to evaluate, like you said, why is this coming in, right? Whether the feedback is correct or incorrect, quote unquote, like why is this happening, right? Did we set bad expectations with the community? Did we set have we set like a standard or habits or whatever? Like, is this something that we have created, right, in our community, or what, right? Like, why have we attracted the audience that might have this difficulty or problem? Yeah, totally. And just taking responsibility for your own community in a big way, and just being proactive rather than just critical. But no, I think that's very insightful. So from here on out, we're just gonna go no holds barred. Grab. I don't love this whole like musical chairs. Like, now what's your answer to this question? So I'm just gonna throw this one out to all of you. Where does the technology get in the way of building strong communities?
I think there's an obvious answer here.
When it sucks. I like that.
You know, yeah, when it sucks, I think is a huge part of it. But I would even push back on that, because look, Bitcoin's block times are 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And you know, Ethereum has currently very long finality windows that are a huge barrier to L2s. So like, I don't think the tech sucking is a barrier to adoption. I think it's when it becomes about this ideal of technology, or religion, what I like to call religious ideas about how technology works. When that becomes the focus rather than the end user experience, that's when not only the users lose, the project loses, and the token holders definitely lose. That is my number one pet peeve. And you know, 100%. I think a lot of people think of me as this like Cosmos dev, but what people don't see is that for years I've been sort of beating this drum behind the scenes, which is like UX, low latencies, fast, go. Let's make this as easy as possible.
Yeah.
And you know, that is, I think, such a key thing.
No, I love that. Yes. I love that. And go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, no. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I think what this cycle just very simply put, is going to test is there product market fit for blockchain other than cryptocurrency? Because crypto has found product market fit. People use it to do all sorts of things that I can't talk about because we are a project, and therefore now we do have to think about regulation. But y'all know what I'm referring to. It's the reason why Bitcoin, arguably ETH to a certain extent, still have value despite the fact that they have significant technology deficiencies or just shortcomings that people are trying to fix. But crypto itself, coins, they have product market fit. But user experience, the quality of the products that all these projects are building, to Jack's point, they matter only if people actually want to use these products. So at the end of the day, if things like games on blockchain, or NFTs, or wallets, or privacy solutions, any number of things that are being built on top of these protocols, if ultimately nobody actually wants them, doesn't matter if the technology sucks. So I think what we're all really fighting for, those of us who are building day in and day out, is to prove that there is some sort of product market fit, or to find that product market fit to justify an investment in significantly better UI UX. But yeah, that is a huge barrier to building community when there's actually an overemphasis on the technology piece.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Do you think with gaming, like, it's possible for PMF to like not actually just be purposely sought out, but just to be hidden in the background? Like, let's say, World of Warcraft is always the example I give, and this is because, one, like, a lot of people understand that a lot of gamers came from, or a lot of the crypto community came from World of Warcraft. Whether it's like Vitalik or myself, or like, a lot of the miners as well. But because it's this giant digital world where you have a character and you have gold currencies, you have gear and equipment, and you have auction houses, and this is where you can like actually buy and sell items. So like, what if this was just all run on the back end through like an NFT marketplace, but users don't necessarily have to know this? Like, Twitch could be this way, where all these, I don't even know what they're called, but like those stupid like Twitch points that you buy, and then you give the points, and then they can go redeem the points for cash. It's like, okay, this could have just been cash, but it's a way to like incentivize people to, I guess, engage more. But that could just be, the same thing with like an in-game currency. People spend dollars on like gold and WoW, and then they go and buy a sword, and that sword can go and traverse through different video games maybe one day. So you can have like, a tier 10 item in World of Warcraft, but then if you go and play another video game, you have another tier 10 item in that game, and then you can also sell it.
I mean, I guess like this is one of those use cases that people have always talked about, but I think that people underestimate the level of bundling and vertical integration that exists within the AAA gaming providers. And the amount of money that they've invested in DRM, copyright protections, and other pieces to help protect their ecosystems. I think that in order for this dream of buy a sword in one game and use it in another to work, something like Ubisoft or Activision would have to build that into their platform directly. And then it would only be usable within that.
Well, and I do think that is kind of the golden goose in a lot of ways that people are like chasing after, right? Like, oh, RuneScape, but with cryptocurrency, right? So like that has been the metaphor for a long time about like digital ownership. Well, and I think I hear what you're saying, Jack, because there is a part of the current, it's really interesting. I do think games are a fantastic analogy for community and how we build strong community, right? Because there is a shared purpose, there is a shared world and space, a lot of shared culture, community ideas. But this idea of how do we translate that value into the Web3 space, how do we make that ownable value, is difficult, because I do think part of what makes a skin in Call of Duty, for instance, worth $20, because people do pay $20 for these new packs of skins or whatever. Part of what makes it worth $20 is a certain type of there's almost a scarcity because of the DRM, right? Because it's limited to this ecosystem, right? I can't get this anywhere else. I do think there'd be a little bit of, and again, you can have that arbitrary scarcity by creating a limit to these assets, but it's just like you said, Jack, I don't think we totally understand what the economy looks like once it opens up. What does a game economy look like once we open that up, once it is truly an open market for these assets, if they're ownable, if they're tradable, if they can move across platforms, how does that get interpreted in another game, whatever. There's a lot of variables there. But also part of the difficulty is obviously the people who have made games that have real value, where you can sell a $20 skin, they don't have a great incentive to open up that ecosystem and let other people get in on the value prop, right? And so a lot of people who are in the Web3 space don't recognize, like this is another, to your point, Jack, how much it takes to build that, right? How long the Call of Duty Activision franchise has been building to create this ecosystem where it has that value. It's a substantial investment, and it's not something we're going to recreate in the Web3 space, even in a couple cycles. I mean, it's going to take time, and I don't know exactly what's going to make that click.
Yeah. So we like Saga has, I think, a brand that's in many ways like pretty professional, and we go about things in a really rigorous way, but it sort of masks this like rebelliousness and edginess that I think everyone on the team shares. And honestly, our opinion when it comes to gaming is like, fuck AAA. Like, we do not care about these shitty big studios. The 10 highest grossing games in 2024, half of them are indie.
Yeah.
And the reason that is coming to be the case is that gamers are looking at like, the 12th edition of Elden Ring, and no disrespect to the creators of Elden Ring. Obviously, they created something that is timeless, and that lasts through many cycles and generations, and that's awesome. But at a certain point, it's like, all right, like I think we've explored all of Star Wars now. And so this sort of tried and true franchise model of the big studios, how they have frankly exploited gamer communities, how they have completely taken advantage of UGC and the passion of these gamer communities and not monetized or compensated them, or really even listened to their feedback on the games. I mean, these are all things that honestly gamers are pretty enraged about at this point. The mood at GDC this year was one of just pure like incandescent rage, because I think it's reached a boiling point. And then you have these indie games that are made at a fraction of the cost. Oftentimes it's a solo developer or maybe a very, very small team. And they take off because they are the most experimental, they're the most creative and original games, and they really know how to seed their communities and how to form them in a really organic way, because they can't buy them. So oftentimes crypto gets criticized for like buying your users or like buying bots to like pose as your users. The same thing exists in gaming. I mean, user acquisition at this point is a very sort of well-trodden path for any game's go-to-market. Is expensive and is becoming less and less effective. So the ability of these indies to really capture the imagination of gamers has been pretty breathtaking. So at Saga, that's been our focus. Honestly, we've never gone after the AAA. Any investor, any community member who's asked us, well, when's Counter-Strike going to go on blockchain? It's like, Counter-Strike is fine without blockchain, honestly. And so like, there's really nothing about blockchain that is going to make a Counter-Strike gun go from 200,000, which it's currently worth, to like $500,000. So that you're barking up the wrong tree. They're fine. And honestly, it's kind of like the Netflix model where we know how to win with this new business model and this new technology. By the time the big studios catch up, hopefully we will have been in a position where we cannot lose. And it doesn't matter if they come out with their own streaming services or if these big studios come out with their own Web3 titles, we will have already won. That's the attitude that we take. And I mean, a little bit of alpha for you guys, but it's indie summer for Saga. There will be a huge campaign and initiative around that coming out very soon. But that's how we think of how gaming ultimately makes it on chain. So to your point, Aaron, absolutely. Like, gamers will find a way to connect with one another and really sort of pay tribute to one another for their contributions to a gaming ecosystem. But you have to give them the rails through which to do that. And it's true. Right now, if you own gaming properties in one game, it's very hard to prove to potential buyers or gamers in other ecosystems that you actually own this item. And that's where NFTs, in-game assets logged on chain, even game state logged on chain becomes very, very helpful. So yeah, that's the direction we've gone in.
Yeah. I mean, this should also like give power back to the gamers themselves. Like a gamer wins something, you know, they can claim that for life, or like sell it or trade it away. Or maybe there's like an artist that like wants to make the skin instead of like having to go list it through something that's going to take, like, that'll never allow them to list it. You know, you can't just like create a skin for Overwatch or Valorant, like, you know, unless like you work for the team, but then obviously you're just working for the dev shop.
Right.
But then, you know, if you're an artist, you can just list it yourself, and then people will be like, oh, this is a really cool skin, and it just takes off. This does not exist right now, but it could. And I was talking to one of my buddies, his name's Raucus. He was, he played World of Warcraft with me. He was probably like the best priest in the history of World of Warcraft, honestly. And then he played Overwatch Pro, and then he played Valorant Pro, and he was like, he was the coach for FaZe as well. And like, he just said that a lot of these games, it just kind of like didn't listen to the users or the players. So used to using the term users.
Right.
Didn't listen to the players. And then a lot of these games just kind of collapsed. And I think that is, you know, by not giving the players and the creators around the game more ways to get engaged and essentially build that community. And, you know, the community is only like one section or like a single direction in the gaming world. It's like you're only a player, but you can't really be a contributor for most games. You can't give back to the gaming community as much. And it's because, you know, these games don't give you those tools. But I think, you know, in this space, community wise, it could be that way. Now, I know like this is meant to be a community culture panel, but we've almost like exclusively focused on games. But
no,
I think
I like that though,
it's a really
because
exciting topic.
Well, and I think this ties back into,
I mean, games are culture and community in many ways.
Exactly.
And I think
exactly.
It's easy for us to forget that as like digital natives.
Yeah, well, and I think that this really ties back into what you were saying at the beginning, Jack, in terms of how like it's not, the technology is not the most important thing for building these communities. It's interesting because this ties into what you were saying, Rebecca, where like you were talking about user-generated content and how, you know, so often community members aren't incentivized or aren't rewarded for a lot of user-generated content, whether that's skins that people are creating, whether that's you know, people will do different mods, right, for games. It's a huge modding community around things like Skyrim. You mentioned Elder Scrolls, and
Minecraft,
right? Exactly, yeah. And so
Minecraft has the whole world. There are like Minecraft economists that like,
oh yeah,
they have to tweak things at such small levels
yes,
because they're afraid of like destroying the Minecraft economy or something.
Well, and that's what's beautiful about this is that, again, when you see this open ecosystem, right, of user-generated content, those communities thrive, right? I mean, it's happening in Roblox now for a certain generation, and you know, the whole Epic community is doing this with Fortnite and the Fortnite Creator 2.0. It's a whole creation system within the Fortnite ecosystem. So we see that the teams that have incentivized user-generated content, that have built, I mean, you could call it a modular open ecosystem. Now, it's not Web3, but it's incentivizing some of the same behavior as Web3. And I think it goes back to what you're saying about Ethereum, Jack. Not Ethereum specifically, but the idea that Bitcoin and Ethereum, they have these crazy long block times, super expensive transactions, like it's totally not optimized, but people want to use it. And because there are a bunch, the users are there, right? If I have Ethereum,
the community is there.
Right, exactly. Because the community is there, there's value because I know it will be useful. I know if I want to build a smart contract platform, people will have Ethereum for the fees. If I want to build whatever, you know, like if I'm building a game, people will be able to use it. Now, again, there's optimizations that get in the way when it comes to block time and things like that. But nonetheless, we see how many people are using Bitcoin and Ethereum because, or despite these technological problems, because the modularity, the composability is there in the sense that I can build something here and people can use it, right? That's exactly what's happening with Fortnite, Roblox, whatever. If I build a mod or a experience in Roblox, there will be hundreds of thousands of people who can use it, who can get access to it. Is that the ideal place to build a game or an experience or whatever? Of course not, right? Like, they're not gonna have like the best tools, the best graphics. We've all seen, you know, what a lot, Minecraft, right, is like blocky, it's super, but the idea that people can contribute to it, it's very easy to build in, that's key. And so it is interesting seeing the connection, going back to community, between games and communities. I think there's some really similar metaphors or analogies where it just has to be accessible, right? If people can build and other people can use it, then people will, right? And so some of it is really just, you know, reaching kind of critical mass. I think that's what we've seen with Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? Like, well, all the people are here. So if I build something here, people can use it, even if it's slow, even if it's clunky, whatever. I would be curious, kind of circle into the community question again. What do we feel like it, because we have an incredible amount of modularity, composability, and I would say ease of development. What are the barriers that create some of this Cosmos bubble, right? What are some of the barriers that might separate Cosmos builders from other builders, or Cosmos communities from other communities? Thoughts? They don't have to be real barriers either. They can be perceived barriers, right? Because I feel like a lot of the ingredients are there.
I don't know. One thing I've seen from the Mad Lads say this thing, wow, we are all one. And like, that's like definitely true. You know, all of the shared ideals at the core of crypto are shared across these communities. And I think that the big differences are in how to express them. And I think that, you know, it's easy to slap a label on yourself and say, I'm this thing. And
right.
Crypto does a lot to enforce tribalism, not only via the incentive mechanisms that we have, but also via the community pressure.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. The barriers are in our minds. You know, this is the core value prop of modularity. It's the core value prop of building an open ecosystem on top of the Unix philosophy, which is individual components that work well, that are composable. And like, you know, modularity is as old as computers and technology in many ways. But it comes with some downsides. And that is that, you know, you can't have defensibility at the technology layer. You need to build defensibility at your product or community layer.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I think that the barriers for builders are in their minds. And you see this with many projects outside of the quote unquote core Cosmos ecosystem successfully using the stack.
Yeah. Examples.
Barachain.
Yeah, that's a great example, especially when it comes to community.
Yeah, Hyperliquid is another one. That's a DEX built on top of the Cosmos SDK stack that is currently closed source, but it's incredibly fast. I've lost track of the number of Bitcoin L2s and AVSs on Ethereum that are building on top of things like
Hyperliquid,
Ethos.
the one I saw today that like Dave was tweeting about.
Yes. Yeah, Hyperliquid's been around for a while. I mean, it's probably the largest Cosmos SDK application by TVL.
That's cool.
Nobody talks about it like that because it's not about the technology, it's about the user experience.
Yeah.
And you know, fundamentally, like, I will reiterate, like, this is what we've always been building, is the key building blocks to enable projects to deliver the best in the world user experience. And I still think that the stack that we have enables that in a unique way.
That's fascinating, because that kind of unlocks something in my mind just now where I'm like, maybe Cosmos communities are inherently a bubble, because it shouldn't be about, Cosmos itself isn't about tribalism. Yeah. Right, like
100% accurate. And like, and we kind of had to build the bubble in order for the project to succeed. But now I think we're in this place where it's a hindrance, and it's not an advantage anymore.
That is fascinating. No joke, because like when you think about EVM or Bitcoin, you have a lot of these maximalists, right? Where it's like, it's all about Bitcoin, or it's all about altcoins or whatever. you know, they're all about your EVM or your specific layer 2 or whatever, because if you lose people, that's the whole value. The whole value is the number of people, the amount of nodes, the amount of users, the amount of wallets, whatever. And so if you lose those people, you lose value. With Cosmos, it wasn't really built that way. It was built in a sense that like everybody, it's a standard, right? It's not one thing. And so because it is a standard, it's a way for these different tools to communicate and interact. It's like, yeah, you can have a bearer chain, you can have a Binance Smart Chain, you can have Luna, rest in peace. You can have all these different communities that they're their own thing, but it's the builder community that overlaps in Cosmos. It's not necessarily the user community in the same way, because Cosmos was never meant to be exclusive. In fact, it's the opposite. It has a different value paradigm than other ecosystems like EVMs or the Bitcoin ecosystem. It is very different in terms of the structure.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, this is something that I've been saying for years, but I think people are just coming around to. People wanted to see value in these tokens that are worth billions and billions of dollars.
Right.
But the real value is in the software, and that is like a much more long-term value. It's
like that pirate meme,
yeah.
Have you seen the pirate meme? It's like the treasure isn't at the end of the journey, but it's the friends you made along the way, or something like that. So this is the software, the long term.
Yes.
The long term.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting.
I mean, it's like a lot of people are in this space for short-term gains, and the fact is that this is not a short-term gains type of thing. This is a longer-term thing that we're all working on.
Yes, the IBC ecosystem has a different time frame. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And yes, there are so many, because things move so quickly, because this space is, tech moves fast now, right? So there is a level of volatility that people can be mercenary about, right? And that is tough, because then it becomes about that instead of like, well, the whole purpose in the beginning was ownership. It was this decentralization. Yeah, and that is tough. And I do think it's interesting. I think what's unique about the Cosmos community, so to speak, if we can still kind of reference that, although I love this idea that in some ways the Cosmos community is not one community, it's not one thing. It's really more the builders that have a certain kind of unity in this common language than it is the communities, because you can have all these composable communities. But one way or the other, what I saw coming into this space when we were beginning with Strange Clan and Passage was a different kind of end user. We saw people who are actually end users who are more like builders, right? And I think that's what's unique about Cosmos, is that the mentality that gets passed on to the community is a builder mentality, because that's really where the common culture is in Cosmos, is around building and the infrastructure. And so it was just a more educated consumer in a lot of ways. The people who had gotten to Cosmos did so through a certain kind of intentionality and research. And that was what was really attractive to us about the community in Cosmos, apart from just the technology, was that we saw a different caliber of consumer in the space. And of course, you still get your pettiness and your tribalism, whatever. That's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's just human nature. But I do think there is a distinct quality to Cosmos folk, right? But it is interesting, because now that I'm seeing what you're saying here, and this idea of like we've outgrown the bubble in a lot of ways. Like we can't have just one community in Cosmos. I still see this. Well, whatever. I don't know. It's still, there is still an interesting characteristic to the community that is here, and how they are like builders in a lot of ways. They have that shared mentality, because that is the value prop in Cosmos, is this long-term infrastructure mentality, but it's a different kind of time frame. And I do feel like I've seen that in the community in the space. So that's cool. We're about to hit time here. So any closing thoughts, things that you guys are excited about for our Cosmos communities or Web3 communities? What are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? There's a lot of launches this year. We got a lot of exciting projects that we're working on. I think that what we've been doing at Rollchains to help make it easier and easier to build Cosmos chains is that core mission that we've always been working on, which is bring the bulk of people globally onto Web3 through very low latency and really fast user experiences. I think that, you know, Solana is doing that in this cycle in a very centralized way, and there's a lot, like, not very centralized. You know, it's one company, they've got one chain, and it's driven around a token, and that's great, and it's good to see them. And Cosmos is kind of this mirror where we have exactly the same ideals, but we're doing so through a much more decentralized method.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because I think you're seeing, from a technology perspective, Solana and Cosmos sort of start moving in the same direction. Cosmos, there's a lot of effort towards increasing performance and lowering latencies.
Right.
And in Solana, there's a lot of effort to modularize and, you know, build another client and do things like that. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about right now.
I love it. I love it. Aaron, thoughts? What you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to all the Bitcoin DeFi that's coming. I know there are, like, you know, infinite amounts of Bitcoin L2s, and obviously Osmosis is pursuing a lot of efforts within Bitcoin, a little differently, but still similarly. And I think that Bitcoin is really going to be something that contributes to the future of all these Cosmos ecosystems. Other than that, honestly, like, there's a, this is not really Cosmos related, but there is a World of Warcraft fork that is going to have a NFT marketplace in it that's crypto based. I think I don't know if it's like public, but I'm in a beta for it. I'm looking forward to trying that out. So I want to see these games. I want to get addicted to a game, and hopefully it's a Web3 game.
Yes. No.
And then you might see my activity just drop.
No, and for one, you said this is not necessarily Cosmos related. Everything is Cosmos. I think we've covered that thoroughly here. Everything is Cosmos eventually. Similarly, I am looking forward to a new wave of extraction shooters. That's like the genre that I've gotten into. I think there's a huge opportunity for anyone who's familiar with the genre, like Call of Duty's DMZ, for ownable NFT ecosystems within extraction shooters. It's such a high risk, high reward gameplay style that it'd be perfect for that. So I'm crossing my fingers, you know, from my lips to God's ears, we get an extraction shooter with some Web3 tech this year. We'll see. Becca, what are you looking forward to?
So more seriously, we are looking forward to at least 1 million MAUs for at least one of our flagship titles. So we have a few coming out this year, 3 this summer, but there will be more later in the year. And 1 million MAUs is really the marker for a successful game. And honestly, there are games out there in crypto that claim that they have tens of millions of MAUs. These are bots, guys. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying that you have a very liberal understanding of what a person constitutes. So, we're looking forward to welcoming on that volume of people, and you'll know it once you reach it, because once a game reaches 1 million MAUs, it's impossible for the gaming community to not know about it and to not really celebrate it. So in order to be competitive with wider gaming, I think that's where we need to go. And more broadly, I'm really excited about consumer adoption. I think that right now people are talking about consumer adoption, which is very encouraging. But I think people understand consumer adoption to mean, okay, when crypto people act as consumers as opposed to technology speculators, there's a product for them. No. Again, like, I'm looking for big numbers here. And if we can reach wider cultural resonance, then we will have done our job this year. So I'm very excited about all of that. Less seriously, we did send out the save the date last week for our Gamescom event, which is the Multiverse Summit Afterworld. All the games that we're revealing are in some way post-apocalyptic. And so in the short term, I am looking forward to scaring the shit out of y'all.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Lots of good stuff to look forward to. Final comment. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? Is informal. This is the what do you think of Passage? How is this for a panel?
I like it. Yeah.
I like it too. This is great. I mean,
it's my first pass, as one might say.
Right. Yeah. No, mine too. And I really like this format. But Lex, I mean, you also did a great job moderating and really guiding the discussion. So that was awesome. But yeah, this is really smooth. Super smooth UI.
Good, good. And yeah, no, I think, Aaron, you mentioned something about like the scaling. How does it scale?
Yeah, so like, so I'll give you another example that's similar. So there's the UFC's competitor. One of them is Karate Combat.
Oh yeah,
and they're actually crypto based, and like not
we've brought them into Passage.
Aware they're crypto based.
I've been with them inside Passage.
Yeah, nice. But like the problem is like they have to plan these physical events, and
yes.
this was like, what is it, like $1 million an event? They have to fly all the fighters out, spend 10 grand on first class tickets for them. And it's just an expensive and slow moving process each time, but you can just whip up an event in Passage, or like, you know, panels or talks, and host it in a few minutes. And obviously, like, I actually had thoughts like, you know, why can't this expand into gaming? It's like,
oh yeah,
you can, instead of Karate Combat, you can host gaming combat, I guess, in Passage.io or something, and like people can come in and watch playing tournaments. I know there are like organizations that do this already, but like it's not really Web3, so I don't know how that would be best executed. But I think it would be really cool if someone made an effort at it.
Dude, I actually made a pitch back in the day when Passage was really early on, and we were pitching to like, back when we did our events with like Capital One, Amazon, we were pitching to people like Warner Brothers. We did a pitch for FaZe Clan, actually, to do a FaZe Clan arena. And this is still like my ambition for like Passage events, that like we could have. I mean, this is why esports is huge, right? Because it's so accessible. And it's, you know, the same basic human instinct of competitiveness and, you know, rivalry and whatnot, but it's very accessible, right? And I love the idea of being able to watch an esports experience from inside the game rather than from a live stream, right? And this is where is an interesting tangent, where Passage, I think, touches on gaming, is not in the idea of streaming the game itself. It's streaming viewers into the game, right? Because the viewers aren't going to care about, you know, a little bit of latency, but it allows them to have a more interactive experience with gaming, whatever. Again, this all seems to be coming back to gaming, but I do think that is a strong tying theme. That's where a lot of this digital ownership started, this idea of like owning assets that aren't physical. So much of it has been around kind of the gaming ecosystem. So I guess that is just part of our ethos now. Danes, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate all of you coming to hang out. This was a blasty blast of a conversation, and we'll definitely have to do some more of these. Really appreciate your time in this. I'm super excited to see all the stuff you're working on. I'm keeping track of Rollchains, Saga, Osmosis, saw the new stats page. I love it. And yeah, looking forward to doing a round 2 in here. We'll get some more conversations happening.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, Lex.
Yes.
Thanks so much, guys.
Go
Great
team, go. Peace.
Thanks, everyone.